Hey guys, how you doing? It's Tom. I don't know if you've ever watched Dr. Jordan Peterson. If you haven't, you've probably already heard that he's a hateful, alt-right, sexist misogynist who wants to see women kept in their place and receive lower pay than men. That anyone who challenges him is met with a band of angry, violent, threatening alt-right Jordan Peterson supporters. At least this is what the media will have you believe. The other day, Dr. Peterson sat down with Cathy Newman of Channel 4 in Britain. They sat down to talk about the gender wage gap. Instantly, or very quickly at least, you could see that Cathy Newman had an agenda of creating a straw man rather than addressing the actual arguments, the scientific arguments, that Jordan Peterson was making. And that's not to say that just because they're scientific arguments that they're correct. Certainly they could be wrong. But they should be addressed through logic and reason, not name-calling and misdirection. They get into the debate, and Dr. Peterson starts to talk about, he's talking about trends on a bell curve. He talks about if you have a bell curve, which, right, it's the curve like that, there are clusters of data points. And women and men, on average, on the bell curve, have certain characteristics. There is agreeableness, conscientiousness, intelligence, which he openly states that on the bell curve, men and women have, there's no distinguishable difference in intelligence quotient. But there's agreeableness, conscientiousness, and that if you compare that with the traits that lead to people making it in the corporate world, people who have low levels of or high levels of agreeableness are less likely to succeed in the corporate world, and people who have high levels of conscientiousness are likely to be successful in the corporate world. And if you take men and women out of it altogether, and you just put the cluster points on a bell curve, you will see that regardless of sex, the people that have these certain characteristics scientifically are more likely to be successful in the corporate world. And that's the point that Dr. Peterson was making. So, and I'm going to do videos about this in the future, but I want to be in-depth and accurate because it's a very controversial topic and you have to be very careful with your words. Otherwise, sophists will try to make you into a straw man, and I don't want to be made into a straw man. So Peterson would make these points, and you clearly see that Newman is trying to create that straw man. He would bring up these data points, and Newman would right away say back, oh, so you're saying women aren't as good as men. Oh, so you're saying women shouldn't receive as high of pay as men. And what she's trying to do is tell you what you should hear from his argument rather than address the argument itself. She's projecting what she wants you to believe, and this is a tactic done by people that wish to deceive you. Now, of course, this is ironic because if you have read Peterson's work, 12 Rules for Life, which should be available on Amazon, he actually, one of the rules he states is make sure you always listen to who you're talking to, because they might know something that you don't know. And if you ever watch Dr. Peterson videos, no matter who he talks to, he's always respectful. He always listens to their points. He'll ask them questions about their points rather than attacking them because he does practice what he preaches. He's not the alt-right hateful person that the media wants people to believe, and you create this straw man because you want people that are not familiar with Dr. Peterson to not listen to his arguments, because these sophists who wish to divide society know that if people actually listen to his arguments, they might not agree with them, but they'll realize they're not hateful. He's trying to have a real discussion about scientific biological differences between men and women. In fact, he openly states, and this is very true, that women dominate the medical field, that women dominate the field of education, and this isn't because of the matriarchy. This is because different choices between men and women. And I don't think any of us, anyone who are reasonable, would feel uncomfortable going to a woman doctor. In fact, because there are more women in the medical field than there are men, you're more likely to get a competent woman doctor simply because there are more of them. So anyway, at one point, Newman becomes stumped. And this is pretty amazing to me, because if you have followed Dr. Peterson, if you watch him, I mean, I can't go through any of his videos without pausing them, looking up words to find out the definition, because he is one of those people. I don't know what his intelligence quotient is, but I mean, he's one of the more intelligent human beings you will ever hear talk. And watch a couple of his videos and you'll be like, man. I mean, I consider myself a pretty well-read person, but if Dr. Peterson agreed to do an interview with me or sit down and do a podcast, which Dr. Peterson, if you're out there, I would love that. If he ever did that, you wouldn't see me for 2 weeks, because for 2 straight weeks I would have my head in a book and I would be doing my research, getting my arguments ready, and I would be watching his videos, especially if I was trying to debunk anything he was saying. I would make sure I knew every argument he makes so that I could debunk it, because he is such a rarely intelligent person. So she tries to create this straw man, but she gets stumped, and clearly she's losing the argument. It's not going well for Channel 4 in Britain. It's not going well for the agenda she's trying to push, because the purpose of this video, again, was to make Peterson look hateful and push an agenda, but Peterson is so great at formulating arguments that she started to look really bad, because it was clear that Peterson's not this hateful person. So right before the interview ends, Kathy Newman says, well, what do you say to your critics? And this is a sophist trick. This is a way to manipulate. By her critics, this is, what do you say about the way we wish to brand you? That you have a group of angry alt-right followers who promote violence and threaten anyone that goes against you. Now, most likely, she has a little earpiece in, and most likely she received word from a producer who said, this isn't going well. Ask him a question about his followers being hateful. So the interview ends, and the next day, the spin doctors come out. And Channel 4 News announces that they're hiring a team of security because Kathy Newman has received so many death threats that all of the alt-right, vicious, angry followers who follow Jordan Peterson are threatening violence or attacking her person. And, of course, people looked into this, and with anything, there's always, there's going to be some threats. Welcome to the internet. But people looked into this, and there were very little threatening language coming from Peterson followers. In fact, most of the angry, violent, threatening language was coming from feminists, people who follow Kathy Newman, toward Jordan Peterson. Yet they had a planned narrative. They're going to paint Jordan Peterson as a hateful alt-right person. And this is a tactic we see used time and time again. This is why we've seen this with Milo Yiannopoulos. We've seen this with people like Ben Shapiro. Anyone who is making arguments against the institutional power, right? Because we've already established that institutional power is controlled by progressives in the modern world, right? They control social media. They control the mainstream media. They control Hollywood. They control academia. They control every bastion of information. And anyone who goes against that, rather than attack the arguments, you see them branded as alt-right. And that's why anyone who goes against the progressive left in the modern world is branded as a hateful alt-right person. I don't think my followers find me to be hateful, but I could guarantee you that I will be branded as a hateful alt-right person. And that's what their followers believe. In fact, when I post things on Twitter and stuff like that, which are in no way hateful, I very purposely try to make arguments rather than attack people, but I am routinely called an alt-right Nazi and a Russian bot. And I'm like, what are these people talking about? They're so brainwashed. So I try, but anyway, I just respond. I don't respond in a derogatory way. I try to respond to their argument, and most of the time that's just, you hateful Nazi. So anyone who's not left in the modern world, progressive, because it's actually not right-leaning white males who have institutional power are branded as alt-right Nazis, right? If you're not a communist, you must be a Nazi. And you really see the distinguishing line between what the media is trying to do. Just the other day, Stefan Molyneux, Mike Cernovich, Gavin McInnes, they held a Night for Freedom in New York City. And basically they're just a people of libertarian conservative thinkers getting together and talking about their ideas for the direction of society. Not very hateful stuff. But, of course, the media beforehand branded this as alt-right, an alt-right hateful meeting, a meeting of Nazis, which it isn't. If you follow these people, you might not agree with them, but they're intellectuals who believe Stefan Molyneux is an anarchist. Mike Cernovich, I would think, is more of a conservative. Gavin McInnes, he's kind of like, he's kind of a crazy Irish guy. I don't know, I like him. But anyway, he's more of a conservative. They're not hateful Nazis, as the media would project. But that's the way the media framed the night after they tried to shut it down. 2 of their venues got shut down, but they were able to hold the event. And of course, during the event, Antifa protesters showed up. And so after the night ends, and the Night for Freedom people go outside, and one of them actually got attacked by an Antifa protester, was violently beat down, nearly choked to death, and he might have permanent physical damage from this attack. But the media reports that a Night for Freedom people are violent, that the alt-right, which they're not even alt-right people, in fact, they disavowed the alt-right a long, long time ago, the media will report that they're violent, but won't report that Antifa showed up to their peaceful talk about their direction for the country, or what they see as the proper direction for the country, and violently attacked one of their supporters. They won't report that, but they'll make up a fake story that Jordan Peterson supporters are violent. And all of this is designed to create straw men, to get people to not even be willing to hear the arguments that these people are making. Because the media knows that if you listen to my arguments, if you listen to Tom Anderson's arguments, if you listen to Jordan Peterson's arguments, if you listen to Stefan Molyneux's arguments, you might not agree with them, but they're not hateful alt-right Nazis. So the idea is to create these straw men. And this is further demonstrated. We saw this in the 2016 presidential election, right? The media has tried to create the narrative that all Trump supporters are hateful, white supremacist, KKK Nazis. Yet the media completely ignored undercover videos of people at the highest level. These aren't low-level people. People at the highest level of the Democratic Party admitting that they pay mentally ill people, or they paid mentally ill people to show up at Trump rallies and punch Trump supporters in the face so that Trump supporters would react, and then the media, which is controlled by the progressive left, would report that Trump supporters are violent, report that they're KKK members, report that they're Nazis. And of course there are some of these people out there, but they try to paint anyone who disagrees with the progressive movement that has all the institutional power as being hateful. And the idea is to dehumanize. So I saw the Peterson interview and I thought this was a teachable moment. So I want you to go back, watch the Peterson interview, watch what he says, think about what he says, pause the interview if you want, and then unpause it and see what Kathy Newman says, and see how she's trying to create the straw man. And then notice when she loses the argument, she asked the question about his supporters being hateful. The next day, Channel 4 releases a statement saying that Peterson supporters are threatening her, that they had to hire security, even though statistical analysis shows that Peterson's receiving more threats than Newman. And this is all designed to create the straw man so that people don't listen to him in the future. And this is what they try to do to anyone who goes against the mainstream media's narrative. So watch the interview. Let me know what you think in the comments. I really appreciate your support. If you want to support my media, go to www.patreon.com. slash FFRnews. Little as $1 a month makes all the difference in the world. I'm TomFFRnews on Twitter. I recently started a Steemit account. I do think Steemit might be the future. It is a social network that's trying to go for the Facebook mold, but it's ran off a blockchain, which means it's completely, or at least from my understanding, it is completely decentralized. We'll see about that. So it's something I am very hopeful for. We need to decentralize social media. We need to decentralize the mainstream media. We need to decentralize education. We don't need high authorities telling us what we should and should not see, who we should and should not listen to. We can make arguments for ourselves. We could think for ourselves. You are very intelligent. You could change the world. You could make a difference. Put your message out there. Support freedom. Support liberty. If we win, if my argument wins, it'll be a society of free people with individual freedom, where people cannot initiate violence against you. And that's the society I push for. All right, thanks, guys. Take care.